Whether you're brand new to Borderlands or you've been farming since the days of General Knox back in Borderlands 1, you know the adrenaline rush of finally seeing that one weapon drop. Oh, I got another knife. Oh my god, I just got it. It's not just about the stats. It's about the chase, the grind, and sometimes the relief when it finally lands at your feet. Borderlands 4 is no different. The loot pool is absolutely massive, which gives you more variety than ever, but also makes targeted farming trickier. Sure, there are legendaries with dedicated drop spots, things like the Hot Slugger shotgun that can completely change how you fight bosses. But the real challenge? The items that don't have a dedicated farm. The ones you can only get through sheer persistence and RNG luck. Which brings me to arguably the hardest weapon to get in Borderlands 4, a purple Jacob's Penetrator knife. This isn't a legendary, it doesn't have a boss tied to it, and no chest guarantees it. But if you manage to get it, it is easily one of the most impactful items in the entire game for boss farming. Because I know how powerful it can really be, I wanted to see if I could get it to drop again. I put in the hours, tested multiple farms, compared loot per minute, and I'm gonna break it all down. Why you should be going for the knife, which farms are best, and what my overall results were comparing them against each other. Let's start with what makes this knife so special. Jacob's knives can roll with the Penetrator augment, and this single perk is the game changer. When you hit an enemy with a Penetrator knife, every single hit you deal for the next 5 seconds becomes a guaranteed critical. 5 seconds might not sound like much, but in Borderlands time, it's huge. That's enough to unload entire magazines, throw out abilities, and trigger secondary effects, all counting as crits. And crits aren't just extra numbers, they're multipliers. Every crit bonus from your skills, class mods, and shields gets stacked during that window. You can pair this with setups like Rafa's Ricochet skills or Harlow's Chroma Accelerator to absolutely melt bosses even in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. The only downside? It's not legendary. It's a pure world drop, hidden somewhere in the sea of random purples you'll see every hour you play. And that's why farming strategy matters so much. I ran each farm for 10 minutes, once on normal and once on Ultimate Vault Hunter 1, tracking the amount of purples, legendaries, and knives to see if one farm stuck out above the rest. And honestly, I'm surprised at what I found. It's important to remember that at the core of every farm, RNG is present. For those who aren't familiar, RNG, or random number generator, represents the probability something will drop. If a legendary has a 5% drop rate, then you should expect to get it within 20 runs. However, it's certainly possible you get it within your first few runs, or it could take 40 runs. It's not guaranteed. If you look around the Borderlands subreddit or YouTube comment sections, people love to say, oh, I got the knife in 20 minutes, or I farmed for 12 hours and never saw it. Both can be true because RNG should follow a normal distribution. Most players will land somewhere in the middle range, while some may get lucky and others get cursed. Now, enough with the statistics, let's get into the runs. The very first boss you face in Borderlands 4, Splash Zone, might not look like much on paper. He's early game, his health pool is tiny compared to later bosses, and the arena is as basic as it gets. A flat space with little cover and no real mechanics. But when it comes to farming, that simplicity is exactly what makes him so good. Even with mid-level gear, you can melt Splash Zone in about 10 seconds. With a half-optimized build, you're pushing closer to 5. And with a Penetrator knife, you can literally one-tap him before he even gets his first swing on you. The arena layout is tight, meaning loot drops in one place, so you don't waste time chasing pickups across an entire map. The stats for every farm are subject to variability for each player, and I'm by no means an outstanding Borderlands player, so you very likely could get higher drop rates than me. On normal difficulty, I got 111 drops, 5 legendaries, but 0 knives. That means for 10 minutes, I had a 4.5% legendary drop rate, but still didn't see a knife, let alone one with Penetrator. I decided to go on hard mode just for this farm, and shockingly got 97 purples, which is 14 less than on normal mode. However, I did get 6 legendaries, which is a far better drop rate with only 2 knives, but still no Penetrator. I then reran it on Ultimate Vault Hunter 1, which actually led to fewer drops, 87 purples, 3 legendaries, and no knives. It's not glamorous, and honestly, it can get boring fast. This is the kind of farm you throw on some music or a podcast, zone out, and just let muscle memory take over. But if what you care about is efficiency above all else, Splash Zone is hard to beat. Foundry Freaks is the complete opposite of Splash Zone. Instead of quick resets, this farm is all about loot density and volume. The Foundry is cramped and chaotic, with enemies spawning from every direction. By the time you reach the end, 3 bosses will appear, allowing for a ton of loot drops. The catch, of course, is that it takes longer. You're not resetting every 15 to 20 20 seconds like Splash Zone. Runs here stretch out, especially if your build isn't tuned for crowd control. The bosses themselves can be a bit chaotic too because they deal fire damage that can cover a ton of the map. But if you're running a build that thrives in tight quarters and pair it with something like the fireworks shield that drops from Splash Zone, this farm can really ramp up the loot drops. On normal, I got 66 purples, 3 legendaries, and 4 knives, compared to 53 purples, 2 legendaries, but 0 knives from UVH1. Again, I'm surprised to see less loot drops from switching to a seemingly higher difficulty. I'm planning on doing a full-length drop rate analysis because I can't tell if the worst drop rate from harder difficulties is statistically significant or the function of a small sample size, since each run is only 10 minutes. Unfortunately, after both runs, we still haven't gotten the Penetrator knife to drop. The driller hole boss fight adds another layer of potential sources for the knife. Unlike Splash Zone or Foundry Freaks that we've already run, you're not just killing a boss and resetting. When you beat the driller, a red chest appears, giving you a second chance at loot every single run. That chest is the main draw. The left and right sides are weighted towards non-weapon items like shields, grenades, and class mods, but the rarity can vary. Combined with the boss's own loot pool, you're essentially doubling your chances each run compared to Splash Zone. The fight itself isn't too difficult and can usually get cleared in under a minute with half decent gear, and with a proper bossing setup, you can kill him way quicker. My runs on normal netted me 41 purples, 2 legendaries, and 4 knives, which is a far better rate for knives than previously. My runs on Ultimate Vault Hunter 1 were similar, with 45 purples, 1 legendary, and 3 knives. Overall, I got a couple knives out of the chest, but they weren't all purples, nor did they have Penetrator. It's important to note that the knife can technically drop with Penetrator on non-purples, but epic rarity allows for 3 augments, making it much more likely to drop from a purple. Now let's talk about the farm that became my personal favorite, Saw's Clinch. From the moment you start it, you'll have a ton of enemies to kill. There's more badass enemies than the previous drill site we ran, and almost every one of them has a chance to drop purples mid-run. It feels like you're looting on the way to the bosses rather than waiting for the end. By the time you reach the final 3 bosses, you've already got a pile of gear sitting around, and then you get 3 more loot drops on top of it. This is where the knife could realistically drop at any moment. Every badass, mini-boss, and the final 3 bosses act like a roll of the dice for you. And unlike Splash Zone, the loot per minute here is unmatched. I consistently average more purples per run in Saw's Clinch than anywhere else I tested. The downside is the flying boss variants. When they spawn, it can be pretty annoying to deal with if you don't have a proper setup. Unlike the previous farms, this can extend your time if you're not killing them quickly. But if you're able to melt them right away, the loot per minute is absurd. On normal, I had 117 purple drops, 3 legendaries, and 3 knives. While it decreased some in Ultimate Vault Hunter 1, I still got 101 purples, 3 legendaries, and 2 knives. Still no Penetrator, which highlights just how difficult it really is to get one to drop. For experienced players with solid builds, this is hands down the best farm for the Penetrator knife due to the sheer number of chances to drop a purple knife. But there's still one more farm that gave me the best knife drops per purple drop of all of the farms. The Craven Nook order bunker not only has a red chest at the end similar to the driller hole boss we farmed earlier, but this farm can also drop arguably a top 5 legendary in Borderlands 4. The Hot Slugger is insane because of its synergy with ricochet builds within Rotha's Peacebreaker tree. It can absolutely melt bosses and has made all of these runs exponentially easier, especially when paired with the crit knife. So even if the knife doesn't drop, you're still getting rewarded with an immensely powerful weapon. This farm did lead to significantly lower drops overall, but I think this is due to the downtime of running to the chest and teleporting back to the Moxie machine. I got 29 purples, 3 legendaries in normal, and 35 purples with 1 legendary in UVH1, with a total of 6 knives, 4 in normal and 2 in Ultimate Vault Hunter 1. Not all of the knives came from the red chest, but it definitely helped. Also, while I didn't get the Hot Slugger to drop on these set of runs, as someone who uses it almost exclusively, this farm is definitely still worth it. Overall, Splash Zone is the fastest farm, perfect for players who want raw efficiency without having to make much of an effort. Saw's Clinch gives the most loot per minute and is ideal for experienced builds that focus on one-shotting bosses. If you're having trouble with it, switch to Foundry Freaks as it offers a little bit easier of a boss fight. Both Driller Hole and Craven Nook offer red chests upon completion, but I prefer Craven Nook due to the chance of Hot Slugger dropping. In total, I got 782 purples, 32 legendaries, and only 24 knives, meaning you're more likely to get a legendary to drop than a knife. Not only that, but not a single one of those 24 knives had the Penetrator augment. For about 2 hours worth of grinding to not get the crit knife to drop, it is a bit disappointing, but that's the reality of farming the best gear in the game. If you want to see a bunch of tips you may have missed, then check out the video on the left. To get caught up on the entire Borderlands story, the video on the right is perfect for you.